Welcome. I'm Sonja Lowe, the Embrace Coach, and I'm joined today with my beautiful co-host, Delia Cortez. Couch Time is a family space to have real conversations, the ones that we love to have. You know what? I also want you to know that if you want to know or keep up with us, all you have to do is visit couchtimewithsonya.com. Today, our topic spans the gamut of emotional spectrum. It makes us laugh, it makes us cry, it eases our anxiety, but boy, does it also cause a whirlwind of anxiety. It provides comfort, yet it also causes pain. This topic is a simple 4-letter word. Can you guess what it is? I believe that it is the most overutilized and least understood word in the English language. It is L-O-V-E, love. Just what do you mean when you say this word? We say I love you to so many things, to people, something that we love to do.
I love shoes.
And clothes.
Yes.
Places we love to go, vacation.
Mm-hmm.
We say it all the time, and the list can go on, right?
And we say it so often.
We do. Actually, preparing for this episode, I really realized we say I love you a lot.
I caught myself. I was listening to music, and I said, I love that song. Then my husband's leaving, and I turn around and say, I love you.
I wonder, does that take it out of context when we do that?
I think the integrity of the word changes.
Yeah, very true. But we're going to get deeper on this conversation, and I want you to bring your family around, and I want you to bring your kids, especially your young girls, especially your young boys, because we're going to talk about some things about relationship that we want them to hear as well. And then there's going to be a time that you want them out of the room, because we're going to talk about the other side of relationships. Yes. We're so glad you joined us on Couch Time today.
What do you think of when you hear the word love? There's so many different aspects of that word, and we're going to discuss 3 of those today. The most familiar is, what we call our relationship, our spouse, our significant other. But they have, the other things like the love languages that are so important to a relationship, the different types of love like agape, eros, and phileo.
Yes.
It's more than just one area. And on top of that, you have all of the love languages and how many of those there could be and how important they are. We could discuss this for weeks and weeks, and we're going to discuss it for several weeks, but we will only have just touched on the subject.
So true.
At the surface of this, it's going to be we'll talk about the fun things, but then we're going to talk about that deeper love. So make sure that you're prepared for the next several weeks. We're going to take time, we're going to pause on this subject, and just dedicate a whole series to love and relationships. So we're going to make, at the end of this, a small dent on this topic. Be sure you spend some time with us. If you want to take it further, as always, we invite you to join us on social media. Get in on the topic, dig deeper. Grab your friends, a tablet, a pen, and join us on this study. We know that everyone loves this topic, especially women. So when we come back, we're going to take a look at that first topic. We're going to jump right in. Join us, pull in your friends. We'll be right back.
If you would like to be a guest or advertise your business on Couch Time with Sonja, I would love to hear from you. Email me. Visit couchtimewithsonya.com. Relationships, especially casual ones, are one of the most fundamental principles in life. We as humans, we just have a natural desire to belong. We want to give and receive love. From infancy, we're first bonded with our mothers when the doctors came in, placed us on our mother's stomach to create that physical and that familiar bond. This is our first experience with a loving relationship. And as we grow, hopefully we can continue to form loving relationships with our family and friends. We form bonds with people, that become our best friend. Our best friend is usually a person of the same sex who we can talk to. There are people who have best friends of an opposite sex, but usually it's of the same sex because we have things in common.
Yeah,
right?
They get to know our ins and outs.
You're exactly right. And I know that I can remember when I met my best friend, how I would say, that didn't really happen. As I was young, I really can't say that I had a best friend. I had friends, but not really a best friend. wasn't really a loner, but I was kind of alone a lot. But if I look at it now as an adult, I can say I have more than just a best friend. I have a few best friends. And things just change as you grow.
You know, growing up, for me, probably very similar. I didn't have a lot of best friends. Now, I had two very good friends. I had Isabel, who we met in second grade, who has since passed away. She was a close friend. We spent time together, and she was my daughter's godmother. So she did spend a lot of time with us. So close friend. Then I had another very close friend. Hi, Sonja. Her name's Sonja, too.
Oh, she's special.
Yes. We were neighbors. So we grew up next to each other. We met when we were 3. She didn't have siblings, so she kind of became part of our family. Very close. But I was very fortunate. I had a built-in best friend. I'm a twin. So from my mother's womb, my best friend was right along my side. So if I had to say I had a best friend today, it would be her. She is my best friend. She has known everything that I've done. She'll probably know everything that I do. It's had a built-in best friend.
That is cool. What an awesome story. And you know what? Who's your best friend? You create wonderful memories, and that I'm sure that we will always cherish for the rest of our lives with our great friends.
You know, with the hustle and bustle of life, and as people graduate college or high school and move away, you lose contact with some of those best friends. You know, I mentioned Sonja earlier. She lives in Arizona now, so we don't get to talk often, and we don't see each other very often. But the good thing is, no matter how much time has passed, regardless of how many years have gone by or days or how many things have happened in life, when we get together, we can talk and talk and talk as if we had spent no time apart. That's one of the lovely things of that relationship. You pick right up where you left off, and you never miss a beat. You know, this friend is always around, especially in that next important relationship, the dating relationship.
It's funny, you have a great friend that is in Arizona. I have a great friend that's in Arizona as well. Isn't that something?
Yes. Tracy, right?
That's right, Tracy. Awesome. But you know what, Delia, I want to ask you, can you remember when you actually thought about boys?
Yes, and I was probably too young.
Yeah, that's probably the case, I think, for all of us, right? But you know what I really want to know is, how did we get to the point that we were okay from just our girlfriend to where we started liking boys?
You know, I would say that friendship that with your best friend kind of began to prepare you, get you emotionally ready for that phase of liking boys.
So true. We're going to come back in just a moment and continue our discussion. And then there was life. Born to color outside the lines. Born for such a time as this. You showed up on the planet to produce a dream. You, yes you, were born with purpose, with words. Friends, imagine that your dreams can become your reality by the words you speak. It all starts today. It starts with you. Creation, formation, transformation, all begin with change. The battle is in your mind, but your voice is your weapon. Speak life, believe, prosperity, creative, daring. The best way to predict your future is to create it. Your future is unwritten. Let's begin writing today. Your words create your world. Hey, Delia.
Hey, Sonja.
Silly. Do you remember just when you first started liking boys?
I do. I was way too young.
I probably agree with that. You know, we went right into to tell our best friend all about him, right?
We couldn't wait.
Now, admittedly, most people do not end up marrying their first boyfriend or their girlfriend. Young girls, did you hear what I said? Young boys, did you hear what I said? You don't usually end up marrying your first. The relationships that break the ice, that's what this is really, into allowing us to begin learning about the inner workings of those of the opposite sex. Some call it puppy love. But at the same time, we think that they are the one. Oh my gosh, did we?
You know, there's no one else in the world but that possible person, right?
You're exactly right. But little did we know, it wasn't. Do you remember the boys were considered nasty? They were nasty beings. And they were, oh my gosh, what was the saying? They were made of snips and dog tails, puppy tails.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I remember those days. Then the next thing is we became interested in these special beings who they weren't so bad after all.
They didn't smell so much. Maybe.
Do you remember some specific thing that happened when you were younger?
You know, I was, probably too young, but I remember trying to impress a boy. Actually, let me scratch that. We'll talk about that one later. I remember liking a boy for the first time, and the way I was going to show him was to knock him off the swing and kiss him on the cheek.
Oh, wow.
Then I ran to the bathroom and washed my mouth out because it was gross. But for that split second, I thought I was going to be so impressive by knocking him off his swing.
You definitely impressed him, right? But what I do also know is, you know what? Those times were precious. But I remember liking a guy, a young boy sitting right next to me in class. Well, that same particular young boy, I had a chalkboard fall on my head in class. I was so embarrassed.
A chalkboard like on the wall?
A chalkboard fell on my head in class. And he came over to see if I was okay. And I thought that was the most precious thing ever.
Aww.
Made me like him even more.
Yeah, he was your Prince Charming in that moment, right?
Exactly, while I was gushing with blood.
But aren't you glad that he wasn't your real Prince Charming?
You're exactly right.
Like your lifetime Prince Charming?
Thankful to God for that.
Yes. So, you know, these relationships, these are the beginning, the evolution of relationships. They're that first boyfriend, first girlfriend, that puppy love, these encounters, they're just the beginning. There's so much more coming. You know, the relationships where you met at school, you held hands and you'd walk to class together and maybe go to a class dance. And if you were lucky, right before your parents picked you up, you'd sneak a kiss.
And that's the key word, sneak a kiss.
Yes. Maybe not so lucky, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, this person you might talk on the phone with when you come home. Now, this was before cell phones, so you actually had to get a phone off the wall and spend some time talking to them.
No, drag it.
Hide it, yes. Or you might get a piece of paper and write them a sweet little note like this one. You know, do you love me? Circle yes or no, and you hope that he's saying yes.
Man, those were special, innocent moments.
Yes.
As we continue along the spectrum of life, we may have several of these puppy love encounters until one day we meet that one person who absolutely knocks us off our feet. This special relationship involves many firsts, and it's the one relationship that evolves through the full spectrum. Yes, this is your future spouse. And as you see us just grinning, dating this person is different. Your smile is different. Your walk is different. Your level of concern is totally different.
Yes.
I have been amazingly blessed to have been married to the love of my life, Mr. Bradford Lowe, for 28 years. And I can still recall the day that I met him. And, oh wow, our special moments. The story he tells, and then the story I tell. You know, that first time that you recall that special date, and then your wedding proposal. And wait till you hear the story of our wedding proposal. And yes, I have visions of Cinderella and Prince Charming. How about you?
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, Prince Charming.
That's exactly right.
Yes. Can you recall your story? Be sure you always share these stories with your children. Doesn't matter what the status of your marriage is today. Take them to a time when your love was fresh and new. Yes. Take them to that time before life got in the way, you know, death, illness, and those trials of life. Don't be embarrassed or ashamed of how your beginning started. It's your unique story, your perfectly imperfect story. It is a great way to teach your children what they can expect, what their future looks like, and what a positive relationship could be.
Yes. And when we return, we're going to look into what happens after the I do as we step into relationships beyond the casual realm. We're going to be right back. See you in a few. If you would like to submit questions or topics for the show, send us an email. Visit couchtimewithsonya.com.
We're back, and now it's time to take this discussion to something a little bit more casual, or from casual to a little more intimate. So take a moment, maybe take the kids out of the room or ask them to go to their room outside for a little while. We're going to really enjoy this discussion, and we hope you will too. Before we do that, to give you some time, I'm going to tell you a little more about asking Roy to dance. Earlier I mentioned that there was more to the story. So yes, it did take some bravery or gumption to ask him. But behind that was, I was with a friend. He was with a friend. My friend wanted to get to know his friend. So she's the one that pushed me and said, I want to meet his friend. So you ask him and I'll ask him. So it took a moment for me to get the guts to actually go and do it. So needless to say, it worked. Because 24 years later, 24 years married and 26 years together, we're still here.
So beautiful.
So right now, as we begin to discuss the difficult aspects or the more intense, the intimate aspects of relationships, we're going to tell you a little bit about our personal stories. Now, what happens when you take that relationship up a notch? Your casual relationship becomes an intimate relationship.
Right.
You know, what do you think about that?
Good question. An intimate relationship is an interpersonal relationship. It's one that involves physical and or emotional intimacy. Physical intimacy is generally characterized by friendship, platonic love, romantic love, or sexual activity. This relationship is optimally seen in marriage. Your mate becomes your best friend that you love platonically and romantically. And of course, it enters into sexual intimacy as well. But marriage is where we experience the height and the full spectrum of that word, relationship. You know, in a fairy tale world, marriages are perfect situations where he opens the door every time. And no one is ill, finances are perfect, the children are carefree, and the romance never dies. Well, we know that that fairy tale is not true.
You know, we know that people get sick, money gets tight,
Yes.
budgets are way too small
Oh, yes.
sometimes. You know, that's life.
Yes,
and
it is.
I'm thankful that even through all those challenges, that I can have my best friend to go through them with.
You're exactly right. I mean, I can honestly say the first 5 years of our marriage, you're getting to know each other. You're learning each other and living in the same household, two people from two different backgrounds and coming together. You have to get to know each other and you have to be able to give and take in that relationship.
So you said two different backgrounds. What I think people often forget is not just two backgrounds, but you remain two different people with different thought processes, different ways of processing through life.
Exactly.
And you somehow, through the friendship, through that intimacy, that you make those work.
That is so true. And one story that I remember is, man, our first argument. You know, I thought of the fairy tale marriage, and of course, I know my parents argued, but we really didn't see it. My brother and I didn't see my parents argue. So if they did it in private and in quiet. So I remember my first argument with my husband. I was heartbroken. And I was just like, what do you mean I can't spend? What do you mean I can't spend that money? What do you mean I can't go shopping? It was just, I was heartbroken. But he was doing just what he needed to do to make sure that he took care of the household. But girl, it took some getting used to.
And it still does, right?
Yes, it still
24
does.
years later, you still have that.
Yes, I agree with that.
You know, I can remember the day of my wedding and entering into that fairy tale world. But guess what? This is my story, and it's a little bit different than what yours might be. My marriage, or my wedding, took place in Las Vegas. It was drive there, get married, our wedding dinner, and I'm not kidding, I'm not lying. This was not a perfect wedding. It's what we had. My wedding dinner was Kentucky Fried Chicken. Can you believe that?
Well, no, I got even better than that.
Tell us.
At least you had Kentucky Fried Chicken. We got married at the Justice of the Peace. Immediately after we got married, he was in uniform. I was in, of course, a cute little dress. Guess where I went right after I said I do?
Better than KFC?
Oh, he went to work, back at the police department. Guess where I went? To the football game. I was married now.
Without him.
Without him. Is that funny or what? Oh my gosh.
You know, see, there's not a perfect situation. There's not a perfect person. But, you know, neither was I.
So good.
And that's okay.
That's so good, Delia.
Yeah.
My gosh. Perfect? What is that? Remember, wasn't that in one of our past segments?
Perfectly imperfect?
You're exactly right.
Yes.
And it feels good being right there.
You know, I agree.
I want to stay that way. Always perfectly imperfect.
You know, I instantly realized that I hadn't signed up for a perfect trip or perfect marriage or wedding, but I had signed up for an everyday journey with a person who would stick by me through the ups and the downs, the sickness and the health, and that we would grow together mentally, romantically, spiritually, until death. I realized that every day would not be perfect, but in spite of it all, we would remain perfect for one another. So Sonja, you talked about your wedding earlier. Tell me about that first argument.
Oh, yeah. The real stuff, right?
Yes.
The wedding is that fairy tale stuff, but
Correct.
the real stuff. Our first argument, gosh, I remember, was in reference, of course, finances. Because I never saw or heard my parents argue. You know, not saying that they didn't, but I just never experienced it. So I remember, gosh, my husband actually telling me, hey, why did you spend this much money? And of course, it was on clothes. Why did you buy that many dresses and spend that much money? And I'm just like, why are you fussing? What's wrong, you know? But what was so awesome, to be honest, that I had to learn was he was only trying to honestly make sure that our household was taken care of.
Right.
But I had a lot to learn. Delia, I had a lot to learn. You know, I got married at 18 years old, and what I learned, he taught me so much through our marriage that he took the time and had to have the patience to say, she doesn't know, so let me help her. And of course, that caused some arguments, and I didn't understand why. But I'm grateful that he took time and had patience with me.
Yeah, what a great husband, and what a great quality that he brought that you didn't even realize when you married him, probably.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And today, I don't know, how is your relationship? And if your relationship is not where you want it to be, this is one thing that I know Delia and I both will tell you, is it takes time and both of you work together. Because ultimately, you're going to be molded into the person that you are to become in oh so many ways. Delia and I both have been molded into the people we are today because of the amazing husbands that we married.
For sure.
And so, of course, we have been married, 24 years?
24 years for me.
28 years for me. However, this may not be your story. You may be single, you may be divorced, separated, or in a long-term dating relationship without even the intent of being married. But regardless, understand that inevitably you will encounter a relationship of some sort throughout your lifetime. And if you're divorced or separated, this still applies. But first, you have to put all the baggage in the trash. And did you hear what I said? In the trash.
Where it belongs.
You're exactly right. We come into relationships with a lot of baggage.
Yes, for sure.
Right? And so whenever we walk into the relationship, we have to be willing to say, it's time to take the trash out and leave it there. Mm-hmm. But of course, we want you to be held accountable also for your own baggage. You know what? And even past stuff. Once this is done and you've taken care of it, now you're ready to begin looking at forming your new and meaningful relationships. Do you remember a time that you had to take the garbage out and put it in the trash and leave it there?
You know, unfortunately, I came from a bad relationship prior to meeting Roy, and I made him pay for the previous person's mistakes. I held on to anger and bitterness about certain topics, and I took them out on Roy because I failed to get rid of the garbage before I entered into my relationship with him.
That's good right there. And that's honesty. You know, Brad was divorced as well. And of course, whenever that happens and you have a prior relationship, my gosh, you're coming together, but you don't know the hurt that was there. Just like Roy, he didn't know the hurt that was there. But having the grace, you know, to understand and to love each other through that time. So I had to love Brad through those times of him trying to get over that relationship. But you know what? I look back today and it's all worth it. And on the other end, he also had to get my baggage of being spoiled.
No.
Oh yes, a spoiled girl. My parents did a good job at that.
Do you know that the night that I met Roy, I told him that there was a couple things that I was dealing with that he would have to deal with, and one of them was that I was spoiled.
Well, of course.
I had
a daddy's girl.
I had a father who spoiled me.
You're
Yes.
exactly right.
Yes.
And of course, that's fair. And Roy treats you very special.
He
today.
does. He does.
And so with many, many years of experience, we have had many, many years of experience. And watching our parents, you know, committed to their relationship, especially mine, I know, I watched them. She watched her father and watching him with his relationship with his kids, my gosh. You know, you watch. Remember, your kids learn from what you do, more so than what you say. And it takes work on both parts to remain in a strong and a healthy relationship. It doesn't happen overnight. We're here to give you a few tips on what to do to renew and rekindle your relationship continuously. Now, did you hear? Let's put a pin there.
Continuously. I like that.
Continuously.
Yes.
It's not something that you do once and stop.
Right.
You know, the things that you did to meet and fall in love with that special someone in the very beginning, you still need to do today. It doesn't stop. You know what? And it also means a lasting relationship when you continue to continuously do the things that they love.
That's the work.
Yes.
Put in the work.
Yes. And you know what? Let's give you some points. And then I want to tell you first and foremost is what did you do in the very beginning that you still do today with Roy?
Wow. That's really a difficult question. But I would say I've always taken care of him in that I enjoy, it is not out of obligation or a requirement, but I enjoy cooking and serving him his food.
See, that word right there is special. Because, you know, in this day and time, it's kind of changed. You don't hear women too much talk about the word serve their husbands. They think that is a negative connotation. And it's really not.
Well,
at all.
I've had people say, "Why do you have to serve him?" And I nicely explain, I don't have to.
That's exactly
It
right.
is my desire to serve him in that way. It's part of how I show I love him.
That's exactly right.
Going back to my childhood, my father was a farm worker. When he came home from work, all of us, my grown brothers to my sister and I, who were the youngest, we would run to where he was to take his boots off of him. He didn't require it. It was just our way of showing our appreciation.
Yes, it was honor and
Yes,
respect
yes.
for him.
The same way with Roy. I enjoy serving that meal.
I agree. Still today, I look at the younger ladies, and I love to always tell them, it's okay for you to serve your husband. When you do that, remember, I do it more so as I'm looking at him and I want to honor him for everything he's doing.
Yes.
But on top of that, it is also how I teach my children how a relationship should be, is that it's not work. It comes naturally when you love somebody. Love means it covers everything, and you're okay doing whatever is needed to be done. And you know what? I'll tell you, do not get lazy in your relationship. Do you tell them about that?
So we talked about giving them these pointers. So let's start with them. And the very first one is, don't get lazy in your relationship. Do the things that you did in that first year, like we talked about. You know, when you were dating, I mentioned that I enjoy serving Roy's food. But we also love to dance. So one of the ways that we continue to date is we go dancing. I'm not a moviegoer because I fall asleep. That's not fun to us. But find that one thing that you do, that one thing that keeps your relationship special, and do it.
That's so good. And on a second note, ask for what you want. Be okay asking for what you want. Now, this is somewhere that I love to talk about all the time. Although you've been together and you've been a partner for years or you've just for a moment, we often think that our partners can read our minds, and they can't. Keep communication open and never make assumptions. You know what? Let's stop right there. I want you to never make assumptions.
Now, we've heard that. We've heard that. Don't ever assume, because
That'll get you in trouble. But one of the things, too, is if you enjoy having your back rubbed, then you have to open your mouth and say that you enjoy having your back rubbed.
Yeah, because
Now,
instead he's rubbing your feet, and you're
on.
thinking, I don't like that. It tickles me.
You're exactly right. Now, for these women and men that are listening, let's get serious. If you love having sex a particular way or making love a particular way, you have to open your mouth and say, I'd like for you to touch me here. I'd like for you to do this. Because if you don't, you can't get upset at them when they don't do that.
You know, and I think that that's so hard for people to discuss. That's a difficult discussion to have. For you watching, it's okay. We were raised in an era where you didn't discuss those things.
No. Oh, no.
You know, those things were not things that you talked about. Now, I've raised my sons differently. But now that my daughter is grown and married, she don't want to talk about it because, you know, I'm a mom.
Of course.
But at least I've given her the tools that she can talk to her husband about it.
Now, see, that's valuable. It's the tools that are needed.
Yes.
And it's like today. Some people might have been, oh my gosh, they're saying the word sex.
Don't shut off the TV. You want to watch this.
You're exactly right. It's real talk. And it's talk that we not only want to talk in our relationships, but we want to also have real talk with our children as well.
You know, this is a topic that the sexual intimacy is a gift that spouses have.
It's a beautiful gift.
Yes.
And I heard you say the word that spouses have. Because that's really where it's supposed to be, in a marriage.
Yeah.
You know what? But the world can wreak havoc on relationships. Truly, just the outside world. You know, sometimes opening our mouths can shut the door to divorce court. If we'll just open our mouths and say what we would like and what we would want, communication is the key. Sometimes it just brings flowers. That might be what you want. It might be that you enjoy birthday cake, or you want to just celebrate your birthday. But if you don't say it, they'll never know.
Or how about how important it is for you that they take out the trash?
You're exactly right.
You know, it's a small thing. But if it's important to you and they don't do it because you didn't tell them, it will really get under your skin.
No, that's very true. But so this is where we're going to, of course, later get to talking about the 5 love languages, which you definitely want to catch that because that is all wrapped up in that. Is finding out what your mate's love language is.
Right.
So I can't wait to talk about that too. You know what? And sometimes if they're getting up to work in the morning and you know that they like a cup of coffee in the morning, why not fix it for them?
Right.
It's a special something to do. It doesn't matter that you do that. It matters that you took their expectation or their love for something and said, I'm going to do it for them.
You made it happen.
You're exactly right. Wouldn't those simple tasks be very easy to meet if only you knew this was expected of you? Now just think of the unhappiness of the people who don't. Or they have these expectations and those expectations are never met. It's simple. It's what we talk about often on the couch. It's all about communication.
Yes.
You have to communicate. We have to talk. Our marriages are important, but the one thing is sit down and have true communication, which means dialogue, which means I'm talking to you, Delia, but you're also talking to me. That means I need to be quiet at times and listen.
So that's two ears, one mouth.
Come
So
on.
sometimes we just have to listen a little
That
bit
is
more.
so good. So good.
So the third point is become an expert on your partner. You know, that's right. Study your partner like you would study to pass a test. Get to know their likes and their dislikes. Recognize when those things could change because we all grow. We change daily, yearly. You know, the things that we like last year might be different today.
So true.
And I'll give you an example of that. I used to really enjoy sketching. I still do. I just have moved it down on my priority list. So if Roy didn't catch that, then he might go buy me new pencils and sketch pads And that's not something I do anymore.
That's
So
good.
I've changed,
That's good.
and it's okay.
But you know what? You saying you've changed, isn't that what happens in marriage?
Yes.
As you grow, you should change. I mean, you're not the same woman that you were 24 years ago.
Thank the Lord.
That's exactly right. Well, I'm not the same woman either, but why is it that in marriages we think that who we met day one should be the same person that we are today? If you're not growing, where are you going?
Right.
So the fourth thing I want to say to you is, well, you know what? No, before I say that, I want to go back to what you just said. Study your partner. I want to talk about that. Study your partner. If you know that something upsets your partner, and you know that it upsets them, and you've studied them and you've watched them, Delia, wouldn't you say that, you know what, that upsets him? So you know what, I'm going to steer away from doing or saying that thing. That to me is showing your true love for your mate because you've watched and you've studied. They don't really like that.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'll be honest with you as you're watching this. I have studied, and I know the things that irk him. And unfortunately, when we're arguing, those are the things I like to do. It's not the right way to handle things. We talked about communication and the importance of that. Getting under his skin or trying to make him angrier, that's not communication.
That is good. And I thank you for your honesty because that's really what's going to help our viewers is knowing the honesty of that. And of course, those are things that you've recognized, sis, but those are also things that you're working on to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. And sometimes it's learning how to bridle this. It's shutting up our mouth, right?
Right, absolutely.
It took me a little while to learn that. I was a nagging wife. The very beginning, oh my gosh, Brad will tell you she was a nagger. But you know what I realized is nagging was pushing him further and further away from me. And it was the moment that I realized that the nagging wasn't going to get me anywhere, that he immediately started pulling closer and closer when I stopped nagging.
Because nagging was not communication.
No, it was not.
That was one-sided.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
It was doing just that, nagging, like a gnat that's always flying around. But you know, there comes learning. We had to learn through the process. It's good stuff. We hope you're enjoying today because this is real talk, being transparent with you so that you can learn as well. But I tell you, we're still learning, even after 24 and 28 years. Marriage is a journey. It's not a destination. And in a relationship, treat it as a journey and not a destination, and you'll be blessed because of it. And then also, spending time together. Be creative how you spend time together. You know, you have to stop going to the traditional dates. And yes, you must still date your spouse. We keep saying that. But remember, the first date was just your foundation. It was your foundation.
It's where you started.
That's exactly right. But you have to build on top of that foundation. Now, if you know that every single time you go on a date, you do the same thing, well, I'm sorry to say, that gets boring.
Yes. For
so
sure.
you know, oh, it's date night. Well, what do you do on date night? Oh, we only go out to eat and we go do this. Well, if it's the same thing every time, it gets old, not just for you, but also for him. So get creative. You have to continue to nurture your relationship in creative ways. Now, as people that know me, know that I love to be a romantic person. That's just me. I love surprising and love doing things that are fun. Well, one of the things I say, you don't have to spend money because a lot of people go, well, I don't have the extra money to go out on a date. You don't have to. You can have an indoor picnic that would be so beautiful. Cook him a nice dinner. Get your picnic basket. Put everything in there. Even put you a nice drink or whatever you like. Candles and also even rose petals. When he comes home from work, you can sprinkle those rose petals and you can have picnic right on the floor. Now, how special is that you did something out of the ordinary, but it was all with him or her in mind?
Absolutely. It's when you hear the thought that counts. That's what matters in these types of situations is that you took the time to think it out and put that plan in action.
You're exactly right.
You know, when my husband and I lived in Dallas, we had 3 kids at home and we had little extra money. We didn't have anyone that lived in the area to watch our children. but we love to dance. So I can't tell you how many times, and my children have witnessed this many, many times, we push everything out of the living room, all the chairs, all the sofas. That became our dance floor.
Oh, that's right. Dancing in the middle.
Yes.
But what did you teach your babies?
Yeah, all of them, to this day, they all dance.
You're exactly right. But they also saw the love of mom and dad in the midst of them.
Right.
That's beautiful, Delia. You know, so do those things that are out of the ordinary. Don't make your relationship boring. You know, take a trip. You can try indoor, outdoor, but take a trip somewhere easy. It could be just to another city.
How about skydiving?
Girl, now come on. If you have someone who is not scared of heights. Also, taking them to the beach. You know how romantic. Going to the beach, moonlight, just having a nice
The
evening.
sound of waves.
Oh, so awesome. It's, you know what, thinking out of the box. And for those of you, just like Delia said, if you have children, it is important to remember to take time out for yourselves. Just because you have children doesn't mean you have to be confined to your home and you can't do things. Because believe me, that mom and that dad needs time together. Remember, before the children, it was you. So you've always got to remember, be creative and do something out of the box.
You know, I was thankful when we did, you know, during that transition, find someone to watch our children because we could step out of dancing in the living room and actually go out and have dinner and do some dancing outside.
It was healthy.
Yes,
For your relationship.
absolutely. One of the most difficult times in our relationship as a couple was when we didn't have anyone to watch them because we didn't get to spend time and nurture our marriage because we were so busy being mom and dad and workers and, you know, buying this and paying the bills that we weren't dating. And it was during those years that our marriage was the rockiest.
That's good. I hope you're listening to exactly what Delia said, is that please take it from Delia and I. Please take the time out to nurture your relationship. You will be far off better for it.
You know, the fifth is that physical relationship. Be sure that you're meeting the physical needs of your partner. You know, this might look different to different couples, depending on age, illness, or just all these other life factors. That couple's physical relationship could be different, and that's okay. You know, it might be as simple as sitting on a couch together holding hands, or it could be that lucky physical stuff we talked about earlier.
Yes.
But it's okay. That bedroom time is your intimate, your time, and it should take place the way that you need it.
That's exactly right.
You know, whatever that looks like for you, never leave this important part out of your relationship. As I mentioned earlier, the rockiest times in our marriage was when we failed to spend time together, and that included that intimate time.
And you know, I would say in our relationship, Delia, was really trying to find out what was really his love language, what was really pleasing to him. It was really that time of trying to realize I can't just do what is pleasing to me.
Right.
It has to be what's pleasing to him also. It's really an unselfish act. We cannot be in a relationship or a marriage and be selfish because that equals disaster.
You know, that takes me back to one of the points earlier in that you said, you know, open your mouth and tell them. Telling them doesn't make you selfish. I think not telling them almost is because you're not giving them an opportunity to give you what you need.
I agree with that. That's beautiful. Remember, the important thing is accept. Just accept exactly that you are different and that it's going to take time. And you have to also agree to disagree. You will not be on the same page all the time.
Yeah. So if you missed that, that's the next point. Agree to disagree.
I truly look at agree to disagree as there are times that I know when Brad and I are talking, you know, I know sure he is not right about that situation. Although he'll say he's right all the time. But he might not be right about that situation. And there's times he may say the same to me. But Delia, being smart and being, I would say, sensitive to the situation is I'd rather de-escalate the situation. You know what? I just agree to disagree. Doesn't mean that I'm saying yes to what you're saying. It's just at this moment, maybe I need to table this. And then I go and pray about it. That's just what I do.
So I'm going to stop at a word that you said a minute ago, and you said de-escalate. We talked about how today's society looks at things like serving as a negative thing and de-escalating. It's not because you're giving in.
Not at all. That is so good. Thank you for bringing that out.
So for those of you that are watching, if you didn't catch that, she talked about knowing when to de-escalate things. It's not because she's bowing down, backing out, or because she's less of a person or giving in to her husband. She just knows that some things are worth an argument and some things aren't.
You're exactly right. And I think that's how you really realize we're both individuals. We're two totally different individuals, and we're going to remain two totally different individuals. And with that in mind, you just want to work with your spouse. Work with them. Both being individual, but you want to complement one another. That's the biggest thing, is complementing one another. And when you do that, you'll be amazed at what happens when you pour words of affirmation, when that's a compliment, on each other. The thing that you're expecting or wanting, you'll get it more when you compliment and pour words of affirmation. I learned that with Brad. It's that, my goodness, that's what he loves. It's what he enjoys, is words of affirmation and respect. When I do that, it's amazing how much he will do that very thing. And it's different than manipulation, because there's a fine line there. But it's honestly knowing that if I do that, I'm giving him the love and the attention that he wants.
And you've said it twice now, the respect that they want.
Yes. So if you're listening, I want you to understand, I want you to rewind this if you need to as you're watching, but I want you to honestly look at the points that we've talked about today. And you know what? There might be more to this for your relationship than it is for ours. Just know that every relationship is different.
You know, we talk about knowing when to give in. A good example is maybe when you purchase your perfect home and you want everything that you want, but they want the man cave and you want the perfect kitchen, that big kitchen. You know, you have to be able to make those allowances for one another.
You're exactly right. Well, give an example. When you purchased your home, when we purchased our home, I can probably just about guarantee there were things you were looking for, and there were things he was looking for.
I had to have a swimming pool.
See?
Yes.
That was what you walked into that home looking for.
Absolutely.
Well, I will honestly say it was, gosh, this is what I want. And then, of course, that compromise, that's what he wants. But what did it do? It gave you the perfect home for you.
So can you imagine not taking that time to compromise and just saying it is going to be this way, period? You know, that would be a really difficult and challenging marriage.
Yes, very much so. That's more of a dictatorship.
Yes,
you know?
No doubt.
And a marriage is not dictatorship. You know, we have to learn how to compromise. And of course, whenever you have arguments, you have hard feelings and words, you know what, just remember, you can't take negative words back. Now, I want to talk to that point in marriages. Because we say things when we're arguing, guilty as well.
I mentioned that earlier.
Yes, you did. You know, you say things when you're arguing that you will regret later. So you have to kind of dig deep and go, okay, is this something that I really want to say in the midst of this argument? Is it going to hurt later, or is it going to help the situation later?
Right. You know, and I think especially as women, we take these words in very seriously.
Yes, we do.
I know that the men, they can let it go a little bit easier. I'm sure you've heard this. Women, we can really hold on to things.
Yes, we can.
And so we do have to. Men, be careful. Be careful what words are coming out of your mouth, because it's really hard for us to let those go. And
Very
as women,
true.
we have to work on letting them go.
You're exactly right. There's that forgiving.
Yes.
What is it?
Forgiving. Marriage is two
Come
forgiving
on.
people. Yes.
That's such a good note.
Yes.
We thank Bishop for that.
Yes.
And then also, there are many instances that, you know, divorce does arise. It just does. And when that instance happens and divorce is there and separation happens, you know what? It started with small disagreements.
Usually it does. You know, people have said it was the affair. No, it was the small things that you could have picked up on if you studied your partner.
That's good.
You recognize that it would have never made it to that point.
You're exactly right. Just remember, it is okay to honestly take the time out to truly say, you know what, I don't want to argue. I just want to stop right here. Let's stop the discussion and let's come back to it later. That is more wisdom than anything else, is when you're angry, stop the discussion and come back to it later.
Yes.
You know what, sometimes just giving them a kiss in that very moment and say, you know what, let's agree to disagree.
Yes.
And move
on.
Ask yourself each time, is it really worth taking a ding to my relationship? Is it really worth it?
No, I mean, I would say no.
Right. And you know, if you think about relationships today, I look at people that say, well, why didn't you stand up for yourself? Or why didn't you say something back to that? Or why did you allow them to do this to you? Sometimes is it really worth it? And most of the time, it's no.
Yeah. So that's something you need to take the call. You need to make that call and find out if it's worth it. You know, our next point is never be unwilling to apologize. There's going to come a time that we will say or do something that are going to hurt our spouse's feelings.
So true.
Whether you did it intentionally or unintentionally, it caused the pain, real pain. And we caused it to the person we vowed to love and to protect. So give a heartfelt, genuine apology when it's necessary, when you've hurt your spouse. Hurt from your spouse is deeper than most because there is a special connection in someone you took vows with. This hurt, if you leave it unaddressed, it causes deep scars of resentment. Offering a genuine apology, one that counts, is like putting healing ointment on a wound. The wound was once there, and in fact really never goes away, but over a short time it becomes healed and there are no resulting scars, or just a tiny one that doesn't hurt anymore. But if the wounds are allowed to continue bleeding, they become infected or ugly, they bleed out or they die.
Right.
In this case, it could be the death of a marriage.
You're exactly right.
You know, not a person, but
No.
that special bond you have with
Special
that other
relationship.
person. Yes. So instead of allowing that wound to become ugly and the thing that breaks your bond, take the time. Make sure that you keep your mind open and you apologize. A genuine, heartfelt apology is so much better than you can even imagine. We're not done discussing this topic. We're taking a quick break and then we'll be right back.
How do you define freedom? Is it health? The ability to call a board-certified physician 24/7, 365 days a year. The ability to eliminate all future copays. Is it wealth? Cut your years to mortgage payoff by more than half and save hundreds and thousands in interest on mortgage, car, and other loans. Is it the gift of college scholarships for every child? Earn guaranteed scholarships at more than 360 private colleges and universities in 45 states. Or simply, abundance, time freedom, the perfect opportunity at the right time. It's all of these and so much more. We are looking for leaders, and freedom is calling. Join the Trivesta movement.
You know, to show you an example of love, we have an amazing Your Story Matters, and we want you to watch it now.
How did you meet? Was it love at first sight?
It wasn't a love at first sight. So why don't you tell the story? How did we meet?
Oh, you want me to tell the story?
Yep.
Well, I tell you the humble truth. I think it was really kind of divine revelation, if I'm to put it that way. It was a divine meeting because going back to on the campus, we met at Unilag, at University of Lagos, Nigeria. We had this great, church, so to speak, on the campus.
The fellowship.
The fellowship, and then we had, this Christian Union leadership, and then the president happened to be my friend. And as the president, he wanted, some young believers to be praying for him, or just encouraging some young believers, and they happen to be women, happen to be sisters, coming to the campus where we men were, born again men, but leaders. And I think there were five sisters.
About 7 of us.
About 7 of you. And then you were one of them. And the funny thing was, he asked that I kind of facilitate the prayer, And I think that's why, when I look back was it love at first sight, and then in terms of what our ministries, kind of connects with right now, it was through prayer. And I was asked to facilitate the prayer of 7 sisters. So in terms of the divine connection there, remember this brother, I can't remember his name, Brother Macri. One day, after we've gone through the sessions of prayer, he said, look, he called me Jonah, he said, look, I'm thinking of something here that it seems among the 7 sisters, one of them is going to be your wife, and honestly, I dismissed it, so because I wasn't looking at 7 sisters and one of them becoming my wife, because my mind was on something else, my mind, but it was awesome in terms of how God narrowed that down to you, which actually was on your 21st birthday. When I was invited to that 21st birthday, I think that was where the connection was made, where God really opened my eyes, to really, give me the understanding that you are the one. So in terms of love at first sight, it was not in the kind of way that people would say it's love at first sight, but it's more deeper than that.
Divine.
Yes.
Connection.
Yeah, but let me ask you, what about you? I've given my own version. Where did you see me in terms of this whole picture of the one, if I'm to put it that way?
Well, I didn't know you were the one. Because we came for prayers and we prayed. And after prayer, we go back to our hall of residence, doing our own businesses. Yes, on the 21st birthday, yourself and the president were there. But I still didn't feel that I wasn't looking for somebody, so I wasn't thinking of somebody being my husband. I'm facing how to graduate quickly and get out of school. But I remember the morning of my 21st birthday, the Lord said to me, Toyin, you're going to be engaged to somebody. And I said, Lord, if that is you, let me know when that person comes, because it's not in my mind and I'm not looking, and I could be very rough when it comes to relationship. So I didn't want to scare somebody off if it's the will of God. So I know I have to pray and ask God to lead me so that I don't run you off if you are really the person. So when that night came and we were all discussing and strolling out of the place, and
I didn't know how my hand got into yours. Was it you that held mine first, or I held yours?
I don't know. I don't remember that.
It was wonderful, and I think after that, it seems the ball started rolling in terms of now trying to make the connection. Okay, God, is this the one? What are you saying now? So awesome.
We thank God.
So awesome. Today has been amazing. And as you can see, we can talk for days,
Yes.
weeks, and maybe even months on the topic of love. We can't wait for you to join us next week as we continue on our topic of love. It's going to be good, and we can't wait for you to join us again. We pray that you have a wonderful and blessed week. And remember, we love you. See you next week.